Okay, welcome back for part 3, and this should be the last one for this chapter 1 practice, part 3. When we left with part 1, we had just changed the width of column A. You can see now that you can see all the text. Remember, with changing the width, you can also tell it to do auto fit, which is nice, except if you have like a comment or something that's really long, and that would take up the whole screen or a good part of the screen. So you probably don't want to do that. So we're going to continue. We finished with step 15. So we're going to now do step 16, which is delete sheet 3. So we get over here to the spreadsheet. So we have documentation, cars, mileage, and sheet 3. To delete this sheet, we right click it and we go up to delete. Now, since there's nothing on it, it's just going to go away. If there was text in it, there was values and some or whatever, if it had stuff in it, it would give you a dialog box. Are you sure you want to do this? But either way, whether you are deleting something that had nothing in it or has stuff in it, if you tell it to delete and you authorize that, there is no undo. So we're going to just delete that. There we go. So now we only have the 3 sheets now. When you open up Excel and you tell it to create a new spreadsheet, it gives you 1 sheet. There we go. Let's bring up the instructions somewhere here. There we go. All right, so we want to move the documentation worksheet to the right of the mileage worksheet, basically the one at the end. So we're going to take this documentation worksheet. We'll just click on this. We're going to add stuff to this momentarily. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag it so it's on the other side on the right side of mileage. So we'll put our pointer right on the documentation, hold the mouse button down, and you can see right above, as I move it, there's a little arrow pointing down. That's where it's going to let go. So if I let go right here, it's going to be between cars and mileage. So I want it at the end. So now we have cars, mileage, and documentation. For the most part, the order of your worksheets really don't matter, for the most part. Later, when we start doing summaries, or we start bringing in files and values from other worksheets, the order may matter, especially if we're doing a range of values. So we'll want to be be aware of that. But for the most part, it really doesn't matter. So we'll go back to the instructions. So we just did step 17. In the page layout view, we want to insert the file name code into the left footer. Now this is important. You'll have a footer, and actually if I scooch down a little bit here in Word, this is a footer. This is the left side, the center, and the right. So they want it on the left footer, and then we're going to return all worksheets to normal view. So, but we want it in each one. So we want to insert the file name code, and what that's going to do is going to give you the name of the file. And that can be very helpful when you are working with multiple spreadsheets and you want to know, okay, what was the file of this, and you have it printed. That's really the benefit of it. So we're going to put this file name on all worksheets. So you do want to pay attention to that. This right here is very important. It's all worksheets. And we'll do that for each one. So we'll click on the spreadsheet. So we'll start with documentation. The page view is this icon right down here, or page layout, I'm sorry. We're normally in normal. My mouse is a little big, so you can follow my mouse. That's covering over some of the tooltip. So we can click on page layout, and that gives you an idea of what things would look like if you were going to print these. You're going to see it's going to break across multiple pages. So I'm going to scooch down, and we want to add a footer. We want it on the left side, so we'll click on the left box. And then the file name, you could type something in here if you wanted to, created by your name if you needed to do that. But we want to do file name. So we'll click that. It gives you the little code, and then what will happen when we preview this, you would see the actual name of the file. There's other options here. You can have page numbers, current date, current time, the file path. So if you're saving this on a file server, it's kind of nice to know where you stored it. So you would just do file path, and then you might do a space if you want or not, and then do file name. But we're just going to leave it as file. So I'm going to bring this one back to normal. Oops, I'm sorry, we got to click outside it, and then we'll just bring this one back to normal. Then we'll click on mileage, and we'll do page layout for that. And we'll do the same thing. We're going to add a footer for the left side. So, and notice it's not showing it for some reason. And what we need to do is go all the way over to the left side where it says header and footer, and just click that. Now we can do the file name. And then we'll go to cars, and we'll do page layout, and we'll do the same thing. We'll click on add footer. For some reason it's not showing, no biggie. Just click here where it says header and footer, and we can do the file name. So the instructions said put everything back to normal. So I want to move this back to normal. Oops, got to click outside it. Click normal here. I didn't change mileage back, so I need to put that back to normal. Got to be outside my footer, and now go back to normal. There we go. All right, I think the next step we're going to continue with the documentation. Go up to the top. So we bring over here. That was step 18. We're winding down here. Let me scooch this over a little bit. On the documentation worksheet in cell A8, we want to type today's date. Now, when you submit your file to grade in Grader, all it's doing is it's looking for something that says a date. It doesn't care what date it is. In cell B8, you want to type your name, first name, last name format, and then we have some text to type. So I'm going to kind of scooch this out of the way. So we want in cell C8, we want to type in completed, the car worksheet, and then B20, enter cars, and then B21, enter mileage. So there's a lot we're going to do. I have it. I have my instructions here, so I'm just going to work through my instructions. So the first thing is in cell A8, we want to do today's date. So today's date is September 2nd, 2023. Usually Excel's pretty good at getting the new year or putting the year in. All right, so cell B10, your name, first name, last name. Doesn't really care what you put in, but obviously it should be yours. To accept that, just hit enter. The third part in C8, I should have just had tab over here. We're going to type in completed, the car worksheet. Now I'm going to bring the instructions back. You'll notice that they capitalized the letter C in car, so you got to make sure you do that. And there is no punctuation after worksheet, so it's common. You know, you get the habit of writing at the end of a sentence. You hit the space bar, but this is really not a complete sentence, anyways. All right, and then in cell B20, which is right here, we're going to rename this cars because we actually remember we renamed sheet 1 cars. Was that is it plural? Yep, Pearl. So plural, not Pearl. So cars, and then I'll hit enter, and we'll do mileage. And note that there is a creator and then a purpose. How much you include a documentation section in your spreadsheets is strictly up to you. It's helpful, especially if someone is looking at your spreadsheet later. It's kind of nice to incorporate a little bit about what it does. So I personally don't always do this, but in some of the places I've worked, it probably would have been a good idea. So back to the instructions. Actually, this is the last step, step 20. Set the documentation worksheet orientation to landscape and set to fit all columns on one page. Because you'll notice, I'm going to click back here on the spreadsheet, that this dotted line is the page break. So actually, if you go to page layout, that's the little icon here, the view, you'll see how it's going to break. So I'm going to turn it back to normal. You can actually work in page view if you want. We'll stay there. So we want to make it so it fits one column wide. That is under the page layout. I kind of wish they wouldn't use the same name for both things, but we're in the page layout tab, and then we want the width. Right now it's automatic. We want that to be 1. So just going to click that down arrow and choose 1 page. And watch what happens once I do that. It's now going to compress it into 1 page. And it also wanted me to put it to landscape. Because you'll notice it's on an 8.5 by 11 ruler right here, and it's going to be kind of small. So let's just do the orientation landscape. You're going to see that it's going to actually fill the page left to right. So it's a little bit more here. And that basically is, I'm going to put this back to normal. That is the practice. The other pages fit okay, so we don't have to worry about changing the orientation. You can change the orientation if you want. So that is the practice for chapter 1. Work through these. If you want to do it again from scratch, you can always just retrieve the file. You've already, that compressed file. You can just copy and paste one of those out. So that was the 3 parts for chapter 1 practice. Thank you.